So 13 years ago, when I moved out of my parents' home to go pursue my PhD, I was scared to death, obviously, just like anybody who moves out of their parents' home. But I remember trying to think of it as a reality TV show, because I used to love to watch reality TV shows, and I knew how some of the contestants on there had a lot of anxieties about the show, about meeting new people, and I just tried to treat the whole experience as a real life reality TV show. And if it doesn't work out and I have to move out back home with my parents, yeah, I lost the show, but it was only a show. I try to treat it like that. And I especially like to treat it as a show of Survivor, because we're trying to survive one round to another with new challenges and needing to adapt, right? Survivor was one of my first favorite reality TV shows because I wanted to enjoy healthier foods. When I was 16 years old, I quit drinking soda, and I wanted to eat natural foods just like they did on Survivor. Catch some wild animals and forage for various plants to eat. And my inspiration was reading online about how various diseases like that modern medicine doesn't really do much for being reversed by people eating healthy herbal medicines, right? My first knee-jerk reaction when I saw things like natural cures, there was a book about natural cures. My first knee-jerk reaction is, if food could cure disease, why do people still have all these diseases? But then I go out and I realize it's because nobody wants to eat healthy. You go to a party and you try to refuse a glass of soda, people thought you were crazy. Back in 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy. Nowadays, it's not nearly so bad, but there's still a good segment of the population who thinks that everything could be eaten in moderation, right? Except they don't eat it in moderation, and even when they do, the results don't match up with what they think, right? So Survivor was one of my first favorite reality TV shows. And I especially loved season 1. There was a contestant on there that I had a crush on. I was 13 years old, and it gave me the first idea of what it means to have a crush. She ended up losing on the show, but starring in a movie, but the movie didn't do so well either. And I think she's just your regular, everyday Jane now. I mean, can't even find her online, right? She probably changed her name. I respect her decision to stay private. It just goes to show that life is just like any other reality TV show, right? So when COVID-19 first hit, I remember thinking of it like a game of Survivor, right? We got to be careful not to be voted off by COVID-19, not to be voted off by economic problems, poverty-related problems like drug use, like gambling, like relationship problems, domestic violence. We got to be careful not to be voted off by those things. I remember treating the whole COVID-19 experience like that, right? Another TV show I could relate to was The Amazing Race, right? When we got to work remotely, I moved out to the Rocky Mountains where the cost of living was a whole lot less. But I had to make a lot of arrangements, right? I had to time when they were reopening, look for Airbnbs, and then I had a few times where there was a gap between two Airbnbs and I had to camp out in my car. I had to make that work despite the lockdowns. And even though I'm working remotely, and I had a couple days when I didn't have an Airbnb and I was working out in my car, and somehow I passed all those tests, right? It felt like The Amazing Race to me, right? One of the reasons I love recording these YouTube videos is, again, it's like a reality TV experience to me, right? Kind of like sharing what's going on, right? Like Big Brother, or maybe like, or any other reality TV show where you got the contestants talking on the camera, what's going on. And, it's like The Bachelor, but a solo sexual edition of The Bachelor for me, right? Or you can also think of it like American Idol, right? Sometimes I sing on here, right? I've sung a few COVID-19 parody songs. I should come up with a few more, right? Earlier today, I was musing with a friend of mine about a few lines of the song Ironic. So we were talking about how there are so many people lining up to get the COVID-19 vaccine that they're not even practicing social distancing anymore, right? What did I sing? Someone coughed on you, as you line up to get the shot. And you gotta take off your mask to show your ID. And there's a million people in line when we add a social distance. It's meeting the girl of my dreams in line, but we gotta stay 6 feet apart. And isn't it ironic, right? So it can be like American Idol for me. I think the second crush I ever had in my life was on Kelly Clarkson, American Idol Season 1. And I voted for her every week, if I remember correctly. But then she went on to compete against 10 other idols from all around the world. And on World Idol in 2003, I think there were 2 other girls on that in that contest, and I like both of them better than Kelly Clarkson. So it's all relative. Also, sometimes I see on social media, sometimes Kelly Clarkson is photographed out in public. She's not dressed up, and doesn't look all that great when she's not all dressed up for American Idol. So, another show I can relate to is The Mole. Unfortunately, they only had 2 seasons of The Mole. So during this whole pandemic, there's been a lot of misinformation about what we should do. There's been a lot of people pushing their own agendas, right? Look at the GameStop situation a couple months ago, the election meltdowns, and it just goes to show that we got to be careful who we trust during this whole time, right? So it feels like a game of The Mole. So how many shows is that? Survivor, The Amazing Race, The Mole, The Bachelor Solo Sexual, and a little bit of Big Brother when I record on here, right? So, yeah, Life is a 7.8 billion person reality TV show. What show is it for you?